Here. I call this meeting to order. You can all join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Sorry, I thought that.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. So, the first item on our budget, on our agenda today is budget, and so we do have several people online listening in, so welcome to all of them and everybody here in the room. I appreciate you taking yet another Monday night to be with us. So I just want to start out with the process so far that we've been through. In November, the administration came to the board with a budget. It was all the hopes and dreams, and it clearly took the board a little by surprise, and we asked you to go back to the table, which you've done and done a lot. And so at this point, what we're looking at is a budget with a 3.18% increase over last year. From the board's perspective at this point, what we have is, we have to come together and talk about what we would like to present in the case that our statutory budget committee does not put forth a budget. They met on Saturday.
Or if they tie vote, it's not necessarily they don't put forth, if they don't put forth a budget because they don't have a majority vote.
Thank you for clarification. They'll be meeting twice more between now and the budget hearing. And so that is not necessarily where we're at, but this board needs to decide where we are at in that case to determine what will go to the voters in February. So all that being said, we've gotten a lot of documentation. We have a lot of questions that have gone to Lori and Christopher regarding what's in the budget and how the numbers have been determined. So what I'd really like to do is open it up for questions and clarification and see if we can come to a place. Yeah,
Can I give a brief budget committee, because I sit on it?
that would be appreciated.
Okay. So we met for, I don't know, 7 hours on Saturday-ish. We had some, folks who joined us from the teachers union, which is great, and listened in for the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours. Then we broke for lunch and we came back to the table. I will say right now, there's been no, set motions made or voted on. There were some anomalies within the budgeting numbers that were discussed and questioned. The budget committee felt as the majority of the committee, there was one member missing, felt at that point in time that they needed more information in order to make an informed decision. Now, you may wonder, because it's been made very clear to the budget committee on numerous occasions that it's not their job to tell the school district's school board, and or then the school board instructs the superintendent how they would like to hopefully have the district run based on a, set of discussions and strategic plans and everything else. It's been made clear to the budget committee that they don't tell us where to cut and where to put money. They understand that. What they're trying not to do is to be that budget committee that I had, I don't know, 15, 18 years ago, that simply said, cut $911,000 out of this budget, and we don't care where. Okay, they're trying to be prudent and understand what the numbers mean and whether or not, as they represent the people who pay the taxes, whether or not the numbers are fiscally responsible. That's what they're trying to do. Okay, that's what they're charged with doing. So it's a lot of questions, and it's probably a lot of questions that people go, that's none of your business. It's all public information. We're a public employer. They can ask any questions they want other than, what health plans you all have, or, you know, anything that's HIPAA protected, anything else is public information. Who we employ, what your rate of pay is, and all of that in the state of New Hampshire is public information. So just trying to understand how all the pieces fit together so that when they make, if they come to consensus, because they're not at consensus right now, okay? If they come to consensus, they want to be sure that they're not that committee that just says Timberlane just told their administration to cut $2.5 million and they didn't care where, okay? So like, they don't want to be that committee. So that's why they're asking for more time and they weren't joining us formally tonight to bring any kind of numbers. Did they discuss a few cuts? Absolutely, we did. Teachers were in the room. I'm sure you maybe already heard about them. There were prudent discussions about some more cuts, due in part to some anomalies. If the anomalies turn out to go both ways, they understand that not only would we be potentially saying, we'd like an adjustment to see an adjustment this way, but maybe there needs to be an adjustment the other way as well, right? So that's why there's a whole host of questions that have come back to the administration. We're meeting again, two hats. We're meeting again next Wednesday evening and hope to come away from that meeting, hopefully, with a consensus, assuming that we can understand all of the other data points that we feel we've got a lot of data, okay, we got a lot of data. But some of the data doesn't hook together, right? Or maybe you look at it and it's not self-explanatory. So there's another question that comes up, right? So that's all. They're just trying, I have to sit on that board or that committee. We're just trying to understand all of the pieces. To Alyssa's point, because she joined us on Saturday, as a person in the audience to watch and also as the board chair to understand what was going on, she realizes that we don't have a consensus and that we have 8 people on that committee. If that committee deadlocks at 4-4, the school board sets the budget rate. So this board needs to know what their number is, and feel comfortable with that number. And that's why Alyssa felt, as the chair and the vice chair felt, that it was probably most prudent for this body to have this meeting tonight so that we could discuss if there are questions with any of the data that we received and you know, no knock to the administration or Lori or anybody with the amount of data that's being asked for. It's a lot. And when it's not been historically kept, kept up to what you want to see every year, it's hard. It's hard to scrub it, compile it, and I think the budget committee recognizes that. And so they did want to make sure that you understand that they appreciate all of the hard work that you've done and all of the amount of data that you've put out. They understand it's not easy. It's a lot. And so we're hoping that next year will be easier. But we gotta get there. So that's just an update on our meeting, and the meeting minutes will be forthcoming. And so we have a list of questions and we're gonna try to get there, and it was shared with the school board, I believe, so the school board could see what the committee's questions are. Thank you.
Just want to add, this is a new administration. We have a
Yeah.
board coming together, the budget committee, so we'll tease these things out. I would like to say that I did review questions. I did find them to be fair questions to make us more disciplined as we think about spending the budget. So, I applaud you all for going in there on Saturday and doing that work, and it will just help us to become a more efficient system. And with the help of the school board providing that direction, I think we will, really set the foundation this year and be better for it in years to come. So thank everyone for their service. I know it's a lot going on, but appreciate the patience of the public, the patience of the school board and budget committee, and we'll get it together and be better for it in years to come.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamie, for that, really good insight. It's not this. Yep.
Can I get a copy of those questions? I don't see it anywhere in my email. Well, I've got one now.
I think that one, but I don't have it either.
I thought Misty sent it to the board, I don't know what day,
Attached in
because I've
my
been looking
email.
at it for days, so sorry. And I am so illiterate when it comes to technology. I don't know how I'm not good on one of these. How do you get to your email?
Oh, well,
Used to have an email button.
yeah, it's like, isn't it on the bottom on the thing? You don't have like a little
I don't have an
little
M.
thing down?
No, I don't have an M. I don't
You don't
understand.
have an
Okay. That's why I use my own computer most of the time. But I didn't tonight because it's set up to do my budget, which is due for a hearing tomorrow night. Ah, now I have an M. So I won't be lost. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Now I can find things. Okay.
I did not receive this from anyone. I just want to be clear about that. Whoever Misty sent it to, she didn't send it to the whole school.
I don't see it either. Okay, it says school, so.
Joe, I think it comes up in mine under, it doesn't come up in my main email. It comes up in forums. Those emails from Misty. And it's called School Board 24-25 Budget Overview. You can do a search for it for Misty, for things from Misty. You'll probably find it.
The email date from her is Sunday, December 17th at 7:23 PM. It came in an email to the inbox. It says to school board at SAU60.org.
That particular mail, Sarah, has a 2-page thing in it about Fall Mountain Regional School District.
So we need to check the email blast stream thingy group to make sure that you may not be on it, because brand new. Maybe they
Oh,
didn't
no,
add
yeah,
that.
actually, that's not the one I was thinking. So I'll keep looking.
So here, I will just forward it to everybody by name.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
We wanna
Jamie
check
gave me a hard copy.
We wanna
That's why I
check
have it,
the-
Sarah.
the stream.
But I know I haven't seen this.
So after Saturday's meeting, Jamie did put together all of the individual town budgets as well as the method budget into one concise document. I sent that to Joe and to Jenny.
Yeah, and
here.
Lori has a copy, yeah. I sent it back to Lori, so if she needed to make, if she wanted to make any tweaks to it. I do wanna share with you that, and I've spoken with Lori, that if you look at it and try to compare it to some of the documents from last year, it's gonna have, it'll have anomalies in the totals, because depending on how you pull the reports and, you know, the documents from last year will have the budget as adopted, okay? And that budget as adopted comes into your software and it lives over here. Then you have a budget that you use with all the entries in and out of it. And so they will have done, everybody does, tons of transfers between line items, right? And so the budget totals that you may see in the reports for last year will not match what's on that report from last year because of budget transfers. Okay, so there's gonna be an anomaly. Because believe me, I looked and I went back and I went, wait a minute, and then I had to go looking, and then it dawned on me. Because the total dollar amount of the bottom line is pretty close. It's like within $3,000.
I do have questions.
I know you do.
Okay, I'll just go ahead and start. This came from the budget committee as well. It was about the removal of subs in some of the schools. I believe, Walpole and Charlestown, is that correct?
There's a school also in Alstead, I think.
Violence, the elementary schools.
Yeah.
Affluent, they're bordered.
So what happened is, when we met as an administrative group to review the budget and see what we could do to reduce it from the 9%, there were a lot of hard discussions, and this was something that came up in the discussion, was to remove the permanent sub positions where you hire somebody for the year and they're there every day, day in, day out. Most of those positions, with the exception, I think, of the Walpole positions, they're vacant. but these administrators said that, you know, they felt more strongly about other positions that they had requested. So they were, well, they said that we could eliminate those positions. So no, not every building eliminated that position, but it was an individual choice. So when we reduced that, it has become evident to me that we didn't have other monies in those lines budgeted for substitutes. And because we had those empty positions, we were able to subsidize and pay for day-to-day subs because we haven't been able to fill the positions. So my recommendation is that we do add, you know, hopefully we can add something back to cover that. If not, we're gonna have to shift something from somewhere else in the budget to cover the substitutes, because we're going to need classroom coverage. I also, in looking back, realized that the current budget reflects, like COVID, usage of the line and not the pre-COVID. So I think that the budget for this year was, underfunded. For the current year that we're in, and then that was used as a basis for moving forward, and
That'd be the day-to-day kind of substitutes that we call in and to come for a day and they.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That concerns me, because I'm afraid that we're gonna try and move interventionists around to do substituting, and it really concerns me that we're gonna have people not doing their jobs and doing substitution, or, so I'm happy. to do it.
it was, I mean, it was well intended in an effort to bring the budget down, but, it's not working well in that way.
We have any sense of how many sub-person days we use a year?
I do not.
Okay, sorry, it was a sort of a deep dive.
I think that's one of our questions we've asked, and I think they use a sub-tracking software that could probably spit that out. Maybe.
Do we
It
have,
might be able to tell us what we've been needing.
do we have a budget to date on that, like what we've used already this year?
I think that was
That would have been included in, yes, I did a year-to-date budget,
in the fold. Yeah. I didn't look at it.
I just don't recall offhand.
I think the prior year for one of them was 50,000.
High school?
I don't remember, I'm sorry, I looked at so many numbers. Don't remember. No, because the high school didn't cut
No,
their,
they didn't cut
their
their
cup substitutes. It might have been, Charlestown.
Can I ask why we're cutting substitutes?
I don't know, that's why we're asking, because they
Oh,
were cut
okay.
out of,
All right, oh, okay. That doesn't make any sense.
already been done, Sarah.
Oh, it's already been done. All right.
We deemed it to be the least disruptive to the system. Cutting a substitute versus a classroom teacher that's there full-time. None of these cuts are ideal, but in order to reduce the tax rate and the impact on taxpayers, that was deemed the least disruptive to the system.
I just wanted to make sure we had money somewhere to pay for substitutes, that we weren't asking classroom teachers to take their planning break to do substituting, and that would be a way to lose teachers quickly.
Or not, more money.
Or, I would have been.
Yeah.
Jane?
Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I'm just, I understand the desire to look for places to cut money, to cut spots in the budget, but I think that Kevin's point is well made, that, you know, if we're if because we cut substitutes positions, we can't even fill substitute positions. So, and so we're already asking teachers to give up their planning times, and it's a hardship. I've been there, done that. It's not easy to do. And so, and it is not the best, it's not the best for the kids. So I think we need to think seriously about that in terms of the best for the kids. So.
Was a follow-up. So the other discussion that occurred, right, because you brought it up, I wasn't gonna bring up all 40 questions, whatever they are, because I know Lori's working on them. Was that you can make those kind of cuts, right? if you're making the assumption that you're not gonna fill, 20 open positions across those 3 attendance areas, then what you're really doing is what they have been doing, which is vacancy management. Right, you're just redirecting the savings from the positions that aren't filled to basically hire a fill-in for one day using that same money. So instead of double budgeting, it would in effect do vacancy management. Yeah, so I mean, it's concerning, I get it, because it was concerning to everybody else with the question on the list. But it's concerning and yet understandable if that was in the back of everybody's mind when they made the decision.
Personally, it concerns me to knowing that we have, always more positions open than we can find subs for, to take a permanent sub who is going to show up and be there and be, usable, be in the classroom, and take that position away and have one less person available to fill those positions. So,
That's a deep argument. We're having the same one.
yeah, I just feel like the comfort of knowing you have a sub available to you versus going out in that morning and saying, okay, we can be there at 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Is
important, especially when we've had people in those positions. And I would say continue to look for the one that's not filled yet. But that's my thought about adding that back in. Yes.
This one's easy, I hope. On this document, there's something called SLP.
Speech language pathologist.
Great, thank you. I didn't know what that was. Are we allowed to talk about this document in,
As long as you don't mention a name, we can talk about position.
okay. There's an elimination from, Charleston Middle School, Walpole and Vilas of K-8 media specialists. Is that speech for librarians? Or is that something a different position?
I'll defer to the building principals to speak to how they use the position.
So the K-8 media specialist oversees the entire district for the librarian. They work with students K-8 on projects that also focus on research skills and everything all the way up. They also assist with ordering of the library materials, meeting with the librarians in each attendance area as well. But that's their main focus, is with the librarians, and then focusing on, research skills with students K-8 as well.
So we still have librarians in all those.
We still have a librarian in every single attendance area, library assistants, in every single attendance area.
So was this position unfilled last year? Is that why that is what
It's
we're looking?
unfilled currently this year.
Thank you. So,
Just want to make sure.
they are essential. They're essential.
Very essential.
I have other questions, but I think Lori needs time to answer those. They were about, I just couldn't get the numbers to tie out from the annual report to the new report. And I think Jamie's on top of that as well. And I think you all are gonna work on that separately. So hopefully we'll have answers to all those things soon, because,
budget transfer.
yeah. Just, I think I answered some of the questions myself, and the budget's only going up 3.18%, but if I look at the one of these documents, I don't know which one anymore, the towns are all going up a number way bigger than that. But I think I answered some of that to myself, some of that was the money going back. Right, that's the, scroll. Yeah, that's not okay. So I think I answered some of that myself. I still probably have questions once you get the numbers to tie out, to make sure that understanding. Because I look at like, Sarah Porter's budget quarterly went down, the high school budget went down. But
The direct budgets.
their direct budgets went down, right? But, Sarah Langdon's tax bill going up, a number of ways. unexpected.
So that's, so that brings us to a discussion that the board does need to have with everybody. In the articles of agreement, I think it's article number 9.
It's subset number 9.
It's subset number 9, thank you, right? Yeah, it's one of those in there. So. I don't know how to say this. Don't take this the wrong way. I'm gonna say with all due respect, okay? There you go. I was here for many years. I never redirected or moved account lines like in a massive change. I know after I left, it got done. I don't know if that came to the school board or not. Any changes for historical expenditure, relocations are supposed to be reviewed by the school board before the moves are made. And the reasoning for some of that is because of the historical, not only the historical knowledge, but to talk through why, because I think a lot of what Langdon is seeing is because of the changes to method 6. Method 6 is going up like $1.1 million. And a portion of that came from ESSER, right? And then there's another portion of that that got moved, right, from other locations. So that was a big discussion at the budget committee on Saturday, that because I think it had to do with, some of it had to do with Focus Leap, ESL. I mean, there's a whole host of positions, right? I think we need to see the crosswalk of where those positions were cut from and where they have moved to, because I think that's part of what's happening with the smaller districts' budgets going up so severely. And we just need to talk through the reasoning, how we reasoned that we would move those. Just to be sure that they're getting moved to the right place, or that we're doing the right thing, right? Unless an attorney or somebody was, unless we spoke to somebody about the movement.
No, we were working through positions and trying to identify and make certain that they were in the correct location. And we started seeing variances between related services. Some of them were in method 6, some of them weren't. And so we were trying to, we got into a conversation so I could try to understand why are they being handled differently. If it is a district service that just happens to be primarily in this location today, but if a greater need moves in tomorrow, they're gonna hop to another area. If it's a district service, why wouldn't it be at method 6? And Xander, if you, one of our special programs was it LEAP, was already primarily in method 6.
Yes.
But the others weren't set up in method 6, they were set up to the buildings. But that didn't seem to make sense.
So there's a reason for some of those, right? And this is only based on my knowledge of how it had been handled prior to me getting that seat and being in it. So if LEAP was very similar to the skills center or BASE or any of those type of programs where children from all over the district go to that location to participate in that program, then it truly may belong in those shared locations, right? So I think the one that popped the most for the budget committee's question, and it would be mine too, as a school board member, is ESL. Because ESL, it can be chunked up and go back to the towns to which it belongs, as opposed to just being put into a catch-all and distributed out to every single town to pay a piece when it may not be their bill. So I think that one needs to be talked through a little bit,
So we viewed that also as a district-wide service that,
but it's not listed anywhere, and I think it used to be done direct, perhaps.
you mean it's not listed anywhere?
It's not listed in any, it's not listed, I don't believe, under any of the methods.
Yes, it was.
Oh, it wasn't
Oh,
listed
oh, you mean in the
article.
article?
So I think just with some of those, I think that's the basis of why Langdon and possibly, not necessarily Charlestown, because I haven't looked at that one, but maybe some of the changes in Akron, I don't know. But the movement of a lot of deletions out of direct funding lines to shared method lines is hitting different districts differently. And we just want to think through it to make sure that historically it follows the way it has been done and that legally we're determining it correctly.
So, again, Sandra, correct me if I'm wrong, the, focus program.
Yeah.
The steps program, the leaps program, and do we have one other?
We do life skill program at high school.
So those are all, so the
High
life
school.
skill is at the high school.
That's high school.
Right.
Yeah, anyway.
And that's the portion over everything. But all of those other programs are district-wide that anybody from any
Okay.
area can go and attend, so we don't, so we can best meet the students' needs. So
Okay.
am I doing that justice?
Yeah.
So that's why we felt that they should all be treated the same.
Okay.
So in method
Right.
6.
And that would make sense to me if the program's similar to Skills Center or, you know, any of those other ones where that were longstanding prior programs
Mhm.
that were in those different locations. The only thing to remember is if there are students that are in those programs in the past, if they had direct one-to-one aids, they were charged back to the towns, not as a part of the program.
Mhm.
Unless they were shared. So, okay, well, that's good and bad.
But ESL, you're correct, I don't see that listed, I don't see it listed in any method.
Right.
And
it's not a
when-
special ed related.
It's not special ed related,
Right.
so it doesn't belong in method 6, because that's kind of where it ended up first, and we're like, no, that doesn't, that doesn't make sense, I had to move it.
Right.
Did
So I
we,
think that's
did we
just-
have that program when this was developed?
Probably not.
No. So that's why we as a board probably need to make a determination on collectively on where we think it should be.
So I know that you were asking,
Yeah, so it's a
where,
follow.
where the makeup is, and they're in Claremont and Walpole.
Yeah.
Is where the students are, yeah, sorry.
That's so
Charlestown and Walpole, that's where the students reside at this
All
time.
students, that need this service or program
Yes.
reside in those two towns.
Yes.
So that might be a discussion point that,
I think I wanna just clarify a little bit here. The question is not that, that the place that's been put is wrong, just like the process.
Right.
That we need to have that conversation to make sure that we are abiding by our own laws,
Mhm.
and doing things
Mhm.
the way they.
well, and a direct expenditure, if it can be determined what town it belongs to, that's the town that has to pay for it, you know, I mean. So I'm sitting on this board with my at-large hat on, right, saying if Akron, Alston, Langdon don't have ESL students, they shouldn't be paying for a portion of those costs,
Okay.
right? As much as it may be labor intensive to track it, we know how many hours go to each location.
How do I then handle the student that moves in during the year and there's no, no, but, I mean, how do I handle that then? It's not built
You make
into the
it-
budget?
You make it would be an unbudgeted cost for whatever
Mhm.
portion of time would then need to be carved out to the other town, and then the other two towns who are carrying the full load would have a credit back to them.
Mhm.
It's, I mean, so at the end of the day, we have direct budgets, right?
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, at the end of the fiscal year, it's all one budget that it's one whole total number, right? There are 12 pieces that make it up. It's just, You know, and sometimes, and it's happened, I don't remember it's happened since I was here, but where one direct budget may go in default and another one doesn't.
Mhm.
But they don't get penalized for overspending their budget because they had an unbudgeted expenditure. We don't make them, and it's been talked about, because the surplus comes off of every single budget. It goes into one big mixing pot and then everybody gets a piece of it based on ADM,
Mhm.
you know? And so it's been talked about trying to figure out exactly where the surpluses are coming from, but it's never been done that way.
As a corollary, and we do the same thing with paraprofessionals, right? If a student moves in,
Yeah.
he's a paraprofessional, we have to go through that same process,
Right.
even though it's unbudgeted. So it
Correct.
does seem it's kind of the same process
It
that
is.
we would use for.
Yeah.
For those kinds of positions.
It would be a mid-year adjustment to where you're gonna charge that person's time and salary out.
Yeah, that's where I see the difference, is if I have a student
Yeah.
move in that needs a new para and it's an unbudgeted request, it's a new hire, it's straightforward. If I have new students move into the district that are receiving a district-wide service, I don't necessarily know about that to adjust the funding line for payroll and tweak the percentages.
I agree I agree. It seems like ESL is similar to, as having been the director of VASE, I never knew if I was gonna get a student from, Walpole or a student from Alsted, anytime during the year. But it was a district, expense that, that was spread out over the whole district for those 4 seats that Ball Mountain got for each of the different grade levels. And so I just knew that I didn't have to think, I could bring in a student from wherever, and it was considered a district expense. So, I kind of think similarly to ESL. You don't know at any time that somebody's gonna move in to one town or another town. And I don't know, it does seem like that would, it does seem more difficult, in that it's really something that we as a district are supporting the ESL for the district. So, I don't, that's just on a simple basis of not knowing all the ins and outs that, Jamie, why, that's kind of my simple-minded thinking.
I think that is definitely the discussion we need to have, because we have this complicated system and it is really hard to manage, and how we're going to do that going forward.
It can be, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that maybe it's time that the board wrote a policy on what to do when these weird things crop up. You know, I mean, if we had a policy in place that Lori could look at and say, if we get a new ESL student, do A. If we get a new LEAP student, do B. Something like that, that makes her job a lot easier. Just simply, this is the way we should follow this. If you think that's worth doing.
Yeah, I don't know that you need a policy, because I mean, it's in our articles that we have to make a decision on how to treat any changes, right? And
Right. So maybe it needs some more writing there.
Can I ask a question? Has in the past ESL costs all been charged to the high school? Does anybody know? No. Person who
yeah,
knows
sure.
would be here, yeah. Okay, because I mean, that might explain why we're only having this conversation now.
Yeah.
Is that the ESL population has gotten larger at the lower grades.
Mm.
So I guess I wanna know historically, or it's on our list, okay?
Mm.
Historically, how has it been treated at the lower grade?
When you say it's on your list,
I think it's on the question list. About things.
okay, so I have, how many ESL students do we have from each town? What was the basis for moving them out of method 6 to method 1 instead of direct to the towns who are receiving those services?
Okay.
And then there's a question about moving leap, steps, and focus.
Those make sense. So those make sense based on what you said.
Okay. But for the ESL, I'm not understanding.
So it's in
like,
6.
it is in method 1.
And it
So,
was.
but was it in six? Is that
Well,
what
that's what
that
it
says?
says here.
Yeah, I
don't
had
know.
moved it, I think, into six or found part of it in
Okay.
six, I don't remember.
Alright, so I guess, I bet it was probably predominantly a high school
Mhm,
cost
Mhm.
before, so the question never came up
mhm,
on why didn't the towns get billed directly for that,
Right,
you know, uptick.
so, and I'm hearing that, so last year we had an Ulster population that, is it Ulster or Alsted?
Alsted, one out.
Alsted, like.
Oh, I like one L, okay, okay.
Al.
So, for
Sure.
Alsted, then we had ESL, ESL population in Alsted last year.
Okay, all right.
Can I ask
So,
Yes, please. Thank you, Sarah.
I have a question. Are the other programs that are shared across the district that are housed in one town? That your skills centers and such, are they in the same method as the ESL now? I guess I'm confused on that because it seems like, to me, it seems like those, they should kind of be treated similarly, where it could come from any town. If they had somebody who moved in who needed that service, could then go into that town, or are they billed out to separate towns? For those individual, for those special programs.
what I have proposed in the budget this year is that the ESL is in method one, so it has a set, formula across the towns. And then the, the programs like Focus, Leap, Steps, those are all within method six. And those got spread across by ADM.
And those are spoken to, Sarah, in the article,
Okay,
specific.
It does look like ESL over at 6 last year.
Was in method six last year.
I think, well, that's where the budget lines are, correct? On Jamie's document, that's,
Okay, I see, we're gonna do that one.
yeah. that one is Dear lips. Couldn't have been one now.
Yeah, I know that we had the discussion that it's not a special ed program.
Yeah.
And that it was, had been grouped with special ed, and that didn't seem.
It's
I just have a
amazing how
question about
many
that.
do that.
If it's a
I don't know
1260 code,
Well, yeah,
why does that fall where it does?
well, reasons. What's your thought on it, Lori?
So with, the state just received a several $1 million grant to update their accounting system.
Okay, so
And
that's what
coding.
you happen to be
So,
there or whatever.
I don't understand why I can have, expenditure and revenue accounts that have the same function.
I think
Structure,
ESLs should have probably initially been under an 1100, an expansion of an 1100 code, because it's considered a regular education.
Which makes perfect sense.
Listen,
So why
I
go
can't
back
answer
there?
that other than to say there are so many districts where it sits under 1260, including all of mine up north. And it's that whole 30-year ago BA group that stuck them all there, you know. I don't know, it was a neat concept 30 years ago.
Do we have the
What
ability to change?
can I ask a question? What about 504 services? Where do 504 services?
1100.
1100?
You actually, if you're building your codes appropriately, Sarah, they go in 1100.
They do, okay. Because it seems like ESL would go wherever
Right,
504 would go.
yeah, absolutely, agreed.
Can we make that change within ourselves, or do we have to wait for the state to say that's where it should be?
You can. Let's get through another year,
Yeah.
and then talk about that, because they may go to universal code of UCOA, universal charter accounts
I'm fine.
within the next year or two,
So
so,
let's wait and not do it twice.
well, right,
Okay.
that's my thought. Because it's really a nightmare to lose your historical data when you
Right.
keep moving stuff all over.
We have a lot of that.
Yes, you do.
So the document that you guys are referring to right now is the one that Jamie sent by email or?
I just happen to be looking in last year's annual report, just because. Being there, do you want to?
Oh, the method? You talking about the method?
No,
Make
just
sure
the-
it's on the same document.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I was looking at Jamie's document to say it was a method.
Okay.
Used to be a method.
It just shows where it
Used to be
was before it got zeroed out.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, if I might ask, I know we're having the discussion, so where do I go with this now? How do we?
I think the board just has to make a determination on whether or not they're okay with it in one or not. I can see I know it's a PIA to track hours to different locations, okay? Because believe me, I've sat where you are and we did it with music and we did it with language people and we've done it with, I don't even know how many people, moving them piece by piece over here. So it's a pain.
Mhm.
The concern, I guess, is from the other towns whom may never have, you know, I think we've always had, all of the towns have always had some type or amount of special ed population. I can't think of one town that hasn't, in my years here. And I'm sure it's the same now because, you know, just whatever. Yeah, so there were concerns brought by my former boss, who did this for 20 years here, you know, about why isn't that a direct expenditure? Because the articles say if the hours and the cost can be determined back to an exact town, the charge is supposed to go back to the town. That's all, you know, so whatever anybody says out there, it doesn't matter. It's what this board thinks should happen with it, and we just need to make a determination on that.
One perspective I would offer on the ESL front is that from a liability perspective, if it's not being served, it's the district that's going to be, you know, it's not gonna be the town.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's gonna be a lot of variance, and I thought Kristen Wilson had spoken to this to some degree, that having a centralized concept with it would, you know, you'd be hopefully better able to deploy those resources as things came up. But from a liability perspective, I don't see it making sense outside of the district program.
Good point.
It is. I'm inclined to agree with that reasoning. I think we are a cooperative because we've agreed to take on that responsibility. You know, should a child move in or move out or move towns or anything like that. And we do support each other in those things. And we do take on that liability together.
So I'm gonna throw a wrinkle into it.
Yeah, please do.
I'm sorry, it dawned on me as I think through things. Isn't ESL now a portion of the apportionment formula? Where the towns who now, they collect data on how many students in your town are receiving services and you actually get monies from the state and your adequacy aid to offset the costs of paying for that?
So I had printed something off from the Funding Fairness Project looking at this. And in terms of breaking down the cost from the Division of Education, it says, or Department of Education, special programs contain some expenses that are not related to special ed. As the DOE accounting handbook states, special education programs are for students with disabilities. Special programs is a broader category which also includes non-special education programs. Those include costs for culturally deprived, bilingual, and gifted and talented programs. So some portion of that has to come from the DOE.
Yeah, it's an adequacy aid, it's part of the adequacy aid formula, so that would fly against what you're saying.
And in terms of budget purposes, it's saying these are generally reported as a student support services. So that, I mean, that is at least a continuity point in how you could reflect it in the budget.
We do, it's $816 per student that is received from our aid, so.
So any of the,
Correct.
And if you've advanced to the monitoring stage, they're not included, there is not money. So I would say that 800
well, obviously it doesn't pay for it anywhere
close
near,
to anything,
absolutely. I
mileage
mean,
maybe.
we can all agree on that, okay? We don't reimburse anything.
Mhm.
But as a direct benefit to the town in which the students live.
So if a child moves into a town that, like, at this point, we know, okay, so Alfred does not have a student receiving ESL service. And a student moves in halfway through the year,
It's a 1-year lag for reimbursement.
do they get half the, like?
Yeah, like, is it prorated?
It no, because it's done on a 1-year lag, because it's not done on, like, the adequacy aid formula is done based on EOI, not BOI, which is end of year reporting, not beginning of year reporting. I'm pretty sure I might be
I think
wrong.
it is
Xander
too.
may know.
I'm looking at it, that's what I think it is as well.
I believe it's done on end of year reporting.
If a student moves mid-year, they're counted as a fractional ADM in each municipality.
So the following year after,
Mhm.
right, yeah, because they don't count them. Your adequacy aid is determined based on end of fiscal year reporting.
So if a student moved within our
There'll
5
be a
towns,
0.5. They'd be picked up as a 0.5 for the adequacy aid setting for the next year out. There's always a 1-year lag.
so if we were to actually follow that, it would make more sense to have them assigned and charged to the individual towns, because they are receiving a teeny tiny percentage of.
I'm just giving you all the data,
Yeah, that makes sense. I
so that
appreciate
when
bringing that
somebody
up.
else comes back at us from possibly any one of the towns that maybe, because here's the thing, right? We could sit here all night long and say, there's none over there, there's none over there, and there's none over there. The adequacy aid formula is a public document. Anybody can go out and look at it and say, oh, Charlestown's got 5.62, because we have, it's butts and seats is what they count. To your point, yeah, it's prorated based on how many days they're present. And so anybody can go out. I mean, somebody from Langdon who gets their tax bill at $3.60 higher, or whatever it's gonna be, can go out and look at that adequacy aid formula and go, why are we paying for ESL when we have no children that are receiving service? And then we can say, if we so choose to vote that way, that we have the opportunity and the right to do that for the articles, we can say, because we feel at any point in time, something might change, and if we get sued for not giving everybody services, they're suing the whole damn district, not just one town. So I'm just saying, we need all the data to make the decision.
Do we treat catastrophic aid the same way?
Catastrophic aid, yes, it's on a 1-year lag. But there's a little bit,
It doesn't come in by,
yeah,
5 towns.
right, I mean, we get a lump sum payment, it's not recorded.
does it all go to the high school? That aid?
I don't believe so, it just comes in as revenue, I mean, it's not paid out in.
Oh, okay,
connection with-
so, no, we share it,
Okay, so
partially because of the articles, we don't break that down when it comes back in, because it's a method, because all the expenses are in a method. But the direct expenses aren't, so how do the towns know? It's gotta be broken down somehow, the towns share in that revenue. I don't know, it's been too long, I think about it.
am not aware of that occurring.
Look on your, so,
if we look, at other revenues,
yeah,
it
it's
must.
gotta
a
be
function
there.
of ADM.
It must come in as other revenue, and then it follows the ADM, and then it gets offset for assessment, yes. It has to get broken down.
But we can't treat this the same way, because it goes to the individual.
Because the money's coming in is probably broken down by method 6 to go against method 6 costs.
So coming in as asking aid for a particular town, are we allowed to take that particular amount from adequacy aid and apply it to the general? Are we allowed to do that?
No, because it goes against direct assessment.
And that's in the articles, it's spelled out there as well, that each pre-existing district for each of the five towns gets their own FCA. Correct. So how does the board want to make a decision on what we want to do with that line item?
I feel compelled to keep it as a district concept.
Should we
Just for
make
the
a motion
libraries.
for that, or do we make a motion for that?
I
or
think you
just-
should probably make a motion.
I think we need to make a decision.
All right, I'll second Jenny's motion.
Sarah, did you hear that?
Can I have clarification on what the motion is?
We haven't actually,
Yeah, I haven't put a motion for, I would move to, place the expenditure of, ESL centrally through the district as opposed to town
In method one.
in method one.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Yes. So we've had a lot of discussion on it. Are we ready to move the question?
so.
But to do a roll call, because you're on Zoom now.
Right, I vote
right.
yes.
Ready?
Joe?
Yes.
I have to vote no based on the principle.
Jenny? Yes.
Most of them know.
I, will also be voting no, which means the motion does not pass.
It deadlocks, so we're gonna have to bring it back to the full board.
Does it deadlock? Or is a-
No, she just broke the tie.
There's only 6 of us here, so it's a 3.
There's 6 of us here, it's a tie.
Oh, I don't, does my vote not count?
Your vote counts.
Shelley,
Shelley's
there's only 6
4,
board
5,
members.
6.
Shelley's not here or online.
Darn. Okay. Darn.
But we can bring it back before a full board and leave it sit where it is for now. And then bring it back before a full board.
Yes.
So we can,
Maybe get a little bit more further guidance on that.
the next board meeting we have scheduled is January 8th,
That's fine.
which
It
is right
just
before the
means that
budget
some of
hearing.
the
And so we
portion
have
that-
time to move some things
Yes.
after that.
And I only voted no because I need more time to think about it. So
I
I was,
appreciate it.
that's why I voted no.
All right, well, thank you for the really good discussion, and, we'll bring it back up, put on the agenda for January 8th.
That was a very lively discussion. It was very good.
It's a interesting subject.
Mhm.
I'll tell you, Jamie, you boggled my mind for a moment there, but I got it back together.
You know what you're doing. It's all good.
I figured it out.
Boggled my own mind. I had to think about adequacy.
Important. Lori?
So along these same lines, we have our related service providers, so our CODAs, our SLPAs, our SLPs, that we put all of them into method 6 as well, using the same theory, but while method 6 really encompasses a lot of our special aid, special education,
I think it's fine. I think it follows the spirit.
okay,
of it, 'cause
it's different than what we've done historically, so I just wanna make sure that because it's not, those positions are not specifically outlined in method 6, I wanna make sure that we're on the same page.
And those positions are not specifically.
They're truly
part of-
shared, right? And they're coming and they're coming out of the special education department at central office. Yeah.
If that were word to understand, each related service, there is nobody who's in a specific building all the time. And their time can be directly related to that particular building at any given moment.
Correct, but we do have higher needs in some buildings, so they may be a higher percentage of the time, but they're open to be moved if I need them elsewhere.
Okay,
I think that makes sense, because it's similar to out-of-district placement, right? We don't charge out-of-district placement back to any one town. We share that in equally. So that would make sense, and they did that specifically when they wrote the articles, because of the special education costs can be so large. It doesn't matter, you know, you can have one kiddo move in, that can be $1 million, and so they purposely said they would share that across the whole entire cooperative, so that one town, albeit if it's a small one, doesn't get devastated by a huge placement.
we have seen that happen.
We have
in
seen that
our
happen.
Neighboring communities. It does devastate a small town like that.
Happened here.
And so that
Yes,
is
happened here.
definitely.
A question I have, there are sometimes 504 students who need SLP or need OT. So does that get charged differently, or how does that work?
I think it goes to the special education cost, because probably those 504 students may also have a need for additional services that are from the special education department.
Okay.
Do we have, any indication of the dollar amount that was moved?
No, I'll have to pull that together. I didn't get that together.
It's on my question.
Yeah, it's one of the
Okay.
questions. It was just one of the questions.
Crosswalk.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question? I probably.
Yes,
I don't
please.
Ask a question about this, because I want to make sure you guys are clear on something. Our past practice has been in our specialized programs, so let's say STEPS, LEAP and Focus, that the paraprofessionals, if they're assigned one-on-one, that got billed back to the town. Since that changed in this, I just want to make it really clear of this. So I want you guys to discuss this, that right now that's all falling now under a shared cost of method 6. So if you don't want, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you don't want that to go back to the original way it was, you guys need to talk about that.
So
Is that considered a related
So
service?
in the past, if you had a one-on-one paraprofessional.
Correct.
So let's say, I'm just gonna make one up. We had a student coming from Walpole to.
The skills
Stafford,
center.
let's say, and they came with a one-on-one, that one-on-one was billed back to Walpole.
Yes, it was
Right.
always done that way.
Correct, so now it's going to be shared. In
Because
method
it's
6.
a program.
So that's why I want to make sure you are clear on this.
Oh, Yeah.
Somewhere it's written, it's somewhere in writing. That, so if it's a shared aid, if it's a 1 to 2, 1 to 3, anything other than direct 1-to-1 in an IEP where 100% of that person's time is with one student, if it's anything other than that, it's a programmatic cost. Historically, and if that's being changed, that's a conversation for here.
That is
Because historically, I'm sorry, Sarah?
that's definitely a conversation, and we can call those paras rehabilitative para. And that makes it so that clarifies that it's a 1-to-1 identified just for that student. They're rehabilitative para for that student.
So every district has its own name for them, but in the IEP, if it says you will hire an aide for every waking moment, an hour and minute, that student is on site,
In school, right?
yeah. That's a 1-to-1.
Right.
That's a person that's hired specifically for that student's needs and nobody else. That historically here has not been a program cost.
So 1-to-1 working in a program,
Still went back
Does
to
not
the
go
towns of
get-
residents.
so I need to, we'll have to sit and talk about
That
this.
is
and share.
akin to any tuition contract we have anywhere,
That's what,
akin to any tuition contract that any Leominster student comes in and they need that, it gets
correct,
billed
it's
back
in
to
all of our
where
contracts.
they
Yeah.
come from.
So like if I as the Goshen special ed director, if I had a Goshen special ed student who was coming to Fall Mountain and you all needed to hire a 1-to-1 para just for that para, I would pay for that para full-time.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct, and I'm just gonna go back a little. I'm gonna say historically, up until I left, I don't know what happened. So for 29 years. Ish. That's how most of those were handled, and I think it's in It's in a document somewhere. I
It,
just,
it has continued that way until, I just wanted to make you aware
Yeah.
until right now. This
Yeah.
is a-
okay, oh, okay.
So we want to, as a board.
So we're just clear, okay. that's
Yes.
good.
Are
So
we
that's-
just clarifying?
That's good, so we're just clarifying.
We want it to stay the way it was for that particular.
Yeah, 'cause
So
otherwise-
everything that you have in your hands will change.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
so it's just,
And
know
that's
that.
okay, that, it's okay,
Okay.
all right? It's a
Sorry,
year of
Laura.
change. You're just gonna embrace it, okay?
yes, but separate of that, we were talking about related services, which are different than that
One to
particular
one, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Because it's
scenario.
shared.
And so, well, some of those related services were direct budgeted, and now you move them to method 6, is that what I'm understanding? So how do we want to address that?
Shared services,
So do we need a motion to say, yes, we want those moved out of the K-8 budgets as shared services? and
So tell me
into
this. So I'm just curious. What kind of, like, so,
SLP, SPLA, I mean,
okay,
like.
so when we do the delivery of them, they're still under the guise of the central office, special education department, right? They're FTE, okay. Why the heck would they be in charge directly to the schools?
Some of them were, not all of them, some of them were.
Oh, they should all be, yeah, they should be shared.
Wow, I'm curious though. I don't remember. I honestly don't, that doesn't make sense to me sitting here, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't have done it that way back. I'm curious if anybody, I have to go back in my records and look to see. But it would make sense to me that all of the shared services that we used to have for those are all district method costs. So, and somebody between me and you might have made that change along the way and didn't talk to anybody.
Mhm.
I'm quite certain.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah.
So do I have a motion on?
Well, I never changed anything. It was easier.
So do I have to move the related services from the K-8 budgets to the shared method?
Doesn't that make sense?
If we need to move that, I'll move that.
Okay, Sarah moved it.
I'll second it.
Okay.
So, taking notes.
Yeah.
So one question, follow-up question. These are not one-offs, right? We're talking. So the volume of these happening. Another way to put it, the folks who do these types of services can often either be 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 or whatever the situation calls for.
That's correct. Well, Sandra can answer that better, but as far as I understand, yes, that can be correct.
Yeah, so to track that individually back would be a total nightmare, okay?
Yeah, let's not do that.
No, so that makes sense.
No, I understand,
Yeah.
but so my understanding, so now I'm hopping back to ESL just for
Yeah.
future. So my understanding is it's not a one-to-one service, it's a person with.
They're
a
still doing
group.
it with a group,
Yes, the ESL is with a group.
so we need to revisit that with some,
But-
with a little bit more
Yeah,
data.
That's my understanding. We
Portion
can
of
have,
time that they would get direct services. The ESL is not the Jose. So I think that's worth noting too in the
Mhm.
conversation.
Yeah, so that may be the follow-up with, so the follow-up question then that was asked with, Kristen. Maybe just a little outline of, who I don't even care. It's 8 kids.
Mhm.
Probably the bulk of their, instructional time is gonna be 1-to-2 or whatever, right? Whatever it is, right? Not like a full, not like a, not a 4-page document, just like a
Right.
quick 1-page, here it is. This is what it looks like. Might be enough to break that. Needing more information time.
okay.
So you will ask Kristen for that document?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
No, I just asked her if she would like listening online. I think she is, but if not, I will ask her.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the question on the table, the motion on the table is that we would like to move related service providers from the individual K-8 budgets to method 6. Sarah,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So moved. All right, well, those were the both of my questions regarding this budget. Does anybody have any topic they'd like to bring up next? Sarah?
no, I'm just, that was a big sigh, sorry.
Okay.
I have a question. So I think that the school board, right? I don't know how, and understanding that stuff may move around, which is just gonna possibly affect the apportionments and the taxes. Which at the end of the day is gonna anyway, right? I think we need to be able to come away from tonight with a comfort zone of the budget that's been presented. Like if we have one or not, because I'm hoping that the budget committee will come to a consensus. But as my school board member had, it would be helpful, I think, for the budget committee even, if the school board had a thought on what the comfort level is. Not thinking about the subsequent tax rates or what happens. I mean, obviously, we're tasked with that, but putting forward the student needs, right, and the budget as built, where's our level of comfort?
I will start with, I am very, I think, impressed with the time spent to take this budget from a 9% increase to a 3.18. The magnitude of that is not lost on anyone. And so hats off to all of you in the room for that. I think we have some work to do in the coming year to direct what next year's budget will start looking like and where our priorities are. I think I am comfortable with a 3%. Don't know how anybody else wants to address it.
I'll go,
Please.
just because I've stared at all of it for a long time, in its iterations. I think the work that was done was awesome. I think that I know financials and numbers pretty well, so part of it was just not carrying warrant articles back through with construction projects, right? So that being thrown out, you still did, like an over a 4% cutback, which is substantial. There are two things that me and I want everybody to realize my vote as a budget committee member may be totally different than my vote as a school board member, okay? Because I think those are two different bodies and they have two different purposes. As a school board member, having looked at all of the data, I have two questions where I think adjustments could be made that wouldn't detriment or put anybody at risk. One of them, and I just want to be sure that I understand what was said, because I listened to the tape, I wasn't here, at the last meeting. It's something Xandra said about the out-of-district adjustments, right? So when I look at the documents, I see out-of-district adjustments of $300,000. I thought I heard that we were gonna hold back 100,000 in that account, even if we may not need it as a buffer. So if I'm correct in what I heard, my suggestion would be that we take that 100 down, and the only reason I would say that is because we have a special ed reserve fund. And we've been running large surpluses, right? So we've got two safety nets there. So I think we could adjust this by 100 grand, if that's correct. If I heard it wrong, then.
Definitely heard me correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that would be one of my, I think we could probably adjust it there, without running a risk, hopefully knock on wood somewhere, because I know that can change overnight and we can be in a true. And the other one that I'm just going to ask that we go back and take a look at is there's some anomalies just within the benefit number. I think there can be some adjustments there, but I'm gonna preface that with the anomalies in some of the benefit lines go both ways. Okay, so I think there's some adjustments there, and I'm not saying they may go down, they may go up, I don't know, right? Because I'm not staring at all of the data, I'm just parsing out pieces of the data and running quick down dirty numbers, which you could absolutely be skewed. So I'd like to just see it come down as a board member by the 100,000, and then also look at all of the salary, this, not necessarily the salary, but the benefit lines. And just as an administration, go back and look at the percentages of increase year over year on the non-union wages. There's some huge percentages in there. There may be absolute reasons for them. I know people's days change. I know people's, whatever. People take on more jobs, they do whatever. So, but I would ask that gets looked at, just in the context of where the market is.
The only thing I would temper the special ed data is I would love to see some of that being used, that 100, to find some way to meet the proficiency standards, to move the dial. I mean, if you look at the 2020, the proficiency data,
We haven't even discussed all that yet.
third grade's at 8%, fourth grade's at 8%. I mean, it's pretty bad. And I think that Dr. Spencer referenced that as part of his report, that's something that needs to be addressed, is moving those kids forward. I think if there was a way to allocate those monies to focus on that, there's some disconnect. That would be the only thing I would temper that with.
For everybody listening, I don't know if there's people online, what Jamie was referencing with the special ed capital reserve fund is that we have this fund, and I can't give you an exact dollar amount that's in it, but the only way to remove money from it is if the budget as a whole is overspent in a year, in any given year. And the reason for that is because of the special ed need. Then we can access that amount of money. So we are able to manage maybe fees or any number of other reasons because we have that safety net. If in fact we have a large expense that is related to special ed, we do have a net for that. And it can be accessed only if we overspend the budget and it is special ed related.
Just for people to be aware, there also is there's a new bill that's in, I don't know if it's actually passed yet or not, but I know that it's in the House, talking about that that if any special ed money was moved out of special ed for another purpose, that we have to that there's paperwork that has to be done, that the state is not wanting us to move money out of special ed to cover other parts of the budget, just so that we're aware of that.
Interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's one of the 350 bills that
Yeah.
they're planning on education. That seminar, I almost fell asleep, there were so many bills in there.
I stand
Like,
with my chair.
We've never done education at all in our lives. We
Right.
need
Yeah.
350 bills to tell us how.
From people who've never worked in education.
Exactly.
Yes, thank you.
So I'm feeling comfortable with the 3.7%.
0.18.
Yeah, 3.1, something like that. So I'm feeling inadequate as a math professor because I look at that number, a 3.18% increase. nice see the percent of change on the tax assessments, 13.43%. And I just can't wrap my head around why that's so different. And I'm sure there's a very good explanation. I just can't come to it. So, I'm feeling very comfortable with the 3.19%. I'm feeling uncomfortable with, how to explain that to my constituents. When I look at the tax rate and why it's so high, coming back to that. I'm also a little uncomfortable with some of the, I can't tie the annual report to, the current budget, and I think you all are gonna work on that, and once you get that tied in and understand those changes, that will make me, more comfortable, but I'm fine with everything else.
I think, I mean, just from a, I don't know, just a perspective, I think if each town had the benefit of seeing the monies that came, you know, through COVID, you know, that now that they've been removed, I think we could get a ballpark, you know, in terms of explaining that, because I think that's where a big delta is.
I just need that data to
Right.
explain that.
Right.
Well, and a question that I have been given from a few different people from my town is the question of taking some of the interventionists out that were in the ESSER funds, and then not moving them into the main budget. And I understand the reason for not doing that, but just an explanation of how the services are still going to be provided to students without those interventionists being there, I think is an important thing for us to be able to explain to the public. Because those interventionists did do a lot of good work, and so I think it's important to understand for the public to understand how we're going to cover those needs with the staff that we currently have without those interventionists.
It is my understanding, with this document, that the interventionists were taken and put back into the budget.
Two of them.
To which town?
For Walpole
Oh.
and for, also.
So where this M6 is, one else.
Yeah, Charlestown did not keep their interventionists.
That's probably why this document is, I'm gonna share a copy of this with you after, is an important one that is on the list that will questions about it.
So it sounds as though we do have some more questions. We may be okay with the amount of increase, but how it's being.
For the budget committee, this was a request for the budget committee.
Right, no, I was actually just going on, so we seem to have a consensus that maybe the bottom line is okay, but we have some questions about how it's designated, maybe some changes will be made within those lines. If you want to add back in.
I was just going to, I figured since Jamie gets to vote one way for the budget committee and one way for the school board, I would like to be allowed to just speak as a private citizen right now, not as a member of the school board. And just tell everyone here that I think that what Dr. Spence did with Dallas Cable was sensational. It worked really, really well. And as a private citizen, I would like to do everything I can to save her job. Because she was paid out of the ESSER money and she's on the cut list, I believe. But, oh, she's not?
Yeah.
No,
Oh, you did
put
say
it
that,
back in. Well,
At halftime, the other half is grant funded, to be determined with grant.
Right.
currently, this is what's. in-
All right, just let me finish my private citizen speech. I think she did a wonderful job with the fall festival, and I think she did a wonderful job with, working with Renee Buckley and I on getting, a nice grant from the, Nelson Congregational Church. For the weekend snack pack program. So I think I'm gonna do everything I can to try and save the job. I think she said that that's a valuable resource for this district that we never had before.
Is there anything else the board would like to bring up?
And I also congratulate you on being able to whittle this budget down to 3.18%, plus or minus a tenth, you said? Yeah, so it's, that was sensational work. I know it was very difficult and I applaud you for it.
So the two interventionists are being moved at method 6, according.
That's wrong.
Oh, that's gonna be updated.
Yes. One is also and one is offset. Yes. So do we? I'm not sure what we need to do next in order to decide on the bottom line.
April, January.
Wait till the budget committee presents what they've decided on January 8th, and then we
Yeah, I mean,
make a motion.
I think everybody's discussed it.
Yep.
You know, then we'll have to have a number and take a vote.
Okay. Well, thank you for the terrific discussion. At this. Public comment, anybody would like to make one? Things coming out. That was the extent of our agenda items. We do have two potential non-publics. So at this point,
Commentary before we move on.
absolutely.
Just want to give an update today. So today, as you all are aware, I sent out an email. We had 2 power outages in Charlestown. We also didn't have generators to rely on, which, you know, also added to the duration that we were out of power. But I just wanted to highlight some of the work of our teachers and our administrators. When I went to both of the Charlestown schools, I saw teachers teaching with flashlights, and I saw teachers teaching in dark classrooms, still attempting to provide instruction to our students. I think it speaks to the testament of the people within this district and this community that we'll find a way to get through it. So I definitely want to highlight that work. I want to highlight Corey and Chris also for working on the fly to manage that situation. It's not easy having a bunch of K-8 people in the dark, but we were able to make it happen. So I just wanted to say that publicly.
Thank you very much. I had people calling, checking. All right, and with that, I'm trying to determine exactly which reason we need. So I'm going to make a motion to move into non-public for. I'm sorry,
Hang on.
I think it's A, consideration. No, confidential commercial or financial information that is exempt from, no, can't be it, sorry.
Let me find one of them. It should be on the bottom of the.
It is, I'm just, it
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
fit any category
Very
very, very
good.
well.
Usually that's something. Which brought,
There's the meeting one. There's the meeting. Oh, let me see.
yeah, oh, this is the,
Oh my God.
I know, it's terrible.
Tiny.
Can't even see it.
Using this guy.
Consideration by school board maintaining the student pupil tuition contract authorized by RSA. I'm gonna, well, actually, let's just say for B, the hiring of any person as a public employee.
Or, yeah, it would be B or C.
Seconded.
All right, thank you. So at this time, thank you all for coming. We'll continue on public.